Now we're going to take a peek into the future. The renowned science fiction author William Gibson once said that the future is already here, it's just not very evenly distributed. The same goes for AI. In some areas, we're already feeling the impact of AI, and in other areas, AI is completely absent and is probably never going to make a real difference. So, how is AI going to change your world? As we've seen, AI is really good at some things and really bad at other things. AI is really good at understanding large amounts of data and finding patterns in data. But it's not very good when it comes to abstract thinking, understanding the world, and applying doubt. So when can we say that AI is going to happen for sure? In other words, when can we say that AI is a hard trend? Try to think about your own line of profession. Look at what you do and ask yourself the following questions. Is there a lot of repetitive work in your profession? Does your job leave a data trail? If most of your work is at a computer, then that is probably the case. Does your job mostly consist of classification? For example, making decisions about different cases. If the answer is yes to these questions, then AI is most likely going to be a hard trend within your line of business. So let's take a look at 3 different professions where AI is going to be a hard trend. First of all, there's radiology. If you work as a radiologist, well, then you spend most of your day doing classification. You look at images that are digitized, which means that they can be read by an AI. And what you do is you classify images. Is this a tumor? Is this a broken bone or whatever? So you classify images. There's a lot of data there, and it's very repetitive work. It's very likely that most of the job functions as a radiologist is going to be affected by AI. So in this line of profession, AI is definitely a hard trend. If you work in customer support, you also do a lot of repetitive work. You do have real life conversations with people, which is still hard to do for the AIs, but a lot of the questions that you get from customers are the same, and a lot of the answers are the same. A lot of the work is already taking place at a computer, and it can be digitized. The sound files can be digitized. The AI can understand what you're saying and what the customer is saying. So a lot of what you're doing, listening to questions and answering questions, is something that can be repeated and learned by an AI in the future. So customer support is definitely one of the areas where we're going to see AI being a hard trend. The third example is more of a manual example. If you work as a fruit picker, then it's very manual work, but it's also very repetitive work. And it's also about pattern recognition. It's all about finding the right fruit or the rotten fruit and throwing that out. So it's a pattern recognition. You find the pattern, you pick the fruit, and you take it out. And this is something with a little help from robots that AIs can do very soon. So if you work as a fruit picker, AI is also most likely going to be a hard trend. But AI is far from always a hard trend, because you also need to ask yourself the following questions. Do you need a deeper understanding of the world to perform your job? Do you sometimes make decisions with inadequate data? Is asking questions sometimes more important than answering questions in your job? So let's look at 3 professions where AI is probably going to be more of a soft trend, or where AI is maybe never even going to happen or have a real impact. First of all, there's a profession as an author or a poet. What does an author or a poet do? An author does not answer questions, but actually on the opposite, what an author does is to ask questions. And this is one of the things that AIs are really bad at today. They can answer a lot of questions, but actually coming up with the real questions and the difficult questions is something that AIs are having a hard time doing. So author is probably one of the professions that are not going to be affected by AI very much at least the next 10, 15, maybe even 15 years in the future. Another example is if you work with people management. This is one of the areas where there's typically a lot of inadequate data. You probably have human resource systems, you have data and statistics on employees, but very often you have to make decisions based on lacking data. You have to talk to people, understand their situation. You have some data, but you're also lacking a lot of data. And this is one of the areas where AIs also are suffering and having a hard time. So if you work with people management, AI is going to have maybe some impact, but probably not a lot. It's definitely more of a soft trend. The third example, if you work as a judge, then, well, you probably have plenty of data. There's in the court system, you have thousands and thousands of pages that you have to read to understand a case. So there is a lot of data, but very often the final decision from the judge is based on something we could call common sense, which could be translated to an understanding of the world, a more abstract understanding of the world, which is needed to actually interpret and make sense of all of the data. And again, as I've said several times, this is one of the things that AIs have a really hard time doing. They do not understand the world, and the judge needs to understand the world. So being a judge is probably not going to be affected that much by AI. In this line of profession, AI is going to be more of a soft trend.
You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney.
What is this?
Anything you say may be used against you.
So now you know what AI is, how it works, what it does, and what it cannot do. And we even have a framework to start thinking about whether AI is a soft trend or a hard trend. So I hope you enjoyed these 5 videos, and remember to complete the final exercise.
Yes, the final exercise. Now it's time for you to put everything together and have a hard gaze at the future. I would like you to consider your own job or workplace and assess whether AI is going to be a hard trend or a soft trend. Remember that AI can be a hard trend for you, but a soft trend for the person sitting next to you. It all depends on what you do and whether an AI can do it better. And that concludes video number 5 and this course on AI and the future. Goodbye.